So Mind Your Head revolves around a 16-year-old girl called Paige, and she's recently had a pretty life-changing event that's happened to her. And when she's trying to deal with this event and deal with her own grief, anxiety is the focal point at that stage and sort of takes over her. And so in this sort of flash moment, she delves into her mind and sort of tries to figure out what is going on, why she's feeling that way, and why she's sort of being taken over. And she meets her coping mechanisms, she meets brain cells and see what they do and how they run her brain, and then also explores the what ifs, so things that could happen, but things that might happen.
The age range of our cast, the kids are a lot more mature than we give them credit for, and the subject matter is very important to them all. The conversations I had with Sam, conversations I had with us in general as the leaders, has proved that mental health issues are important to them.
My character is the tour guide, so she's sort of directing Paige around her own mind and helping her understand it a bit better. I feel like a lot of my characters that I've played in the past are sort of like overseeing everything. They're a bit less in the action. They're sort of a main character, but sort of just in the background at the same time. So I think it's quite in my comfort zone, I guess. I think my process for preparing for a role is pretty similar both ways. I think this way was a lot more relaxed because there wasn't the ultimate stress of having to know an entire show back to front lines wise, because we were filming, we could do it in sections, and so it wasn't quite as stressful for me. But yeah, I don't think there was that much difference. It was just odd being at home whilst doing it instead of being with the entire cast.
So during the first lockdown, we wanted to be as active as possible with our members, and so we still had these sort of Zoom calls as everyone did, and we started having conversations and getting our members to create monologues and sort of addressing these different topics. So mental health was a massive one that came up for a lot of our members who did take part in it. And they mentioned all these little themes and all these little moments of their lives that sort of helped us understand them and understand what we could do, because we wanted to create something. We still wanted to create some theatre. And so from there, from the conversations, from the monologues, I was able to sort of piece together a sort of basic play, and then I added in my own personal experiences and just culminated it together to create something. And yeah, so it's something that's been built from the members, and I've sort of shepherded it into a certain zone. I think the biggest challenge that we faced as a company was, well, first of all, actually making sure that the equipment was safe, that we could use it, that we could transport it round to every member's house. And so we thoroughly cleaned everything, but obviously we had to make sure that all the parents and guardians were actually okay with this to start with, and to then distribute it. And then the whole setup was probably took longer for a lot of people than the actual filming process that we did. So I'd say it's just making sure that we had everything we needed and everything was safe before we could actually get on with the production itself.
I think having to work without a cast member next to you feeding lines to you is a difficult skill. Ours have adapted very, very well to it, and you'll see from the production how we've managed to fit that in with some clever editing, but it has shown how good the kids are.
Obviously it's very odd because at youth theatre we're all really good friends, and so it's nice to rehearse with each other because we obviously have really good rehearsal moments. And doing it at home, there wasn't the energy that there usually is of like bouncing off each other and you know, like making show memories behind the scenes. And so it was strange, but I think in the end it's worked out all right, and I mean we'll get back to performing together at some point.
SIYT is more than just kids playing acting. We are a serious theatre company. I don't like the term drama club. We're a serious theatre company. We've performed at the National Theatre. We've taken and produced plays at the Edinburgh Fringe. People that have never seen us before are often surprised at how good the talent is within youth theatre, and I think that needs to be shared and embraced by the community. Again, I think it's the maturity the children have shown in dealing with the issues inside the play and their own personal issues, and not being afraid just helps them become more rounded members of society. They often educate us older ones. I've learnt a few very valuable lessons from our members.
I think there's a difference between the atmosphere in online shows compared to a live theatre, and I think when we can actually perform this in person, I think the two shows will be vastly different, because obviously there are far more distractions around you in an online environment. I think we cannot wait to do a live theatre production where we can have a different atmosphere that could change your perception of the show.
I think this play is really interesting as like an insight to the mind. I think like in the past few decades we've become a lot more comfortable with talking about our emotions and our mental health, and I think that's really good, and I think this play is good at talking about that and sort of understanding pieces of our brain that we don't necessarily like to think about or mention a lot, and I think it will be quite insightful for people to think about themselves and sort of reflect on their minds, I guess. But yeah, and I think it's also, there's a lot of little bits of comedy in there, so it'll hopefully make people laugh and be quite uplifting to everyone. I hope everyone enjoys watching the play, and I'm excited to see it, because obviously it's going to be very weird to not be in the moment and actually performing it and instead watching it on the screen with everyone else. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
We should warn you that the subject matter of this play can cause some triggers for some people.